In 1972, the Hollywood industry was experiencing a fascinating transition period. Studios were trying to capture the changing tastes of audiences in a post-counterculture America, leading to bold creative risks that didn't always pay off commercially. It was a year when legendary filmmakers and A-list stars found themselves attached to projects that crashed spectacularly at the box office. Despite star power and visionary direction, these films hemorrhaged money and damaged reputations. What went so terribly wrong with these ambitious productions? Let's dive straight into it and talk about the 13 biggest box office disasters from 1972 that made Hollywood executives have sleepless nights. Z.P.G took viewers into a dystopian nightmare where having children was banned by government decree. Released during growing concerns about overpopulation, this sci-fi misfire starred Oliver Reed and Geraldine Chaplin as a couple who defies the ban by having a baby in secret. The film's premise was timely, touching on environmental anxieties and reproductive rights issues. The production company Sagittarius Productions invested heavily in creating the film's futuristic world, with elaborate set designs depicting a pollution-choked Earth where citizens wear gas masks outdoors. Director Michael Campus attempted to bring a gritty realism to the sci-fi genre. However, the marketing campaign failed to generate buzz, and Paramount Pictures provided minimal promotional support. Audiences found the film's tone uneven and its message heavy-handed. Critics savaged the wooden performances and stilted dialogue. One reviewer memorably wrote that the actors seem as suffocated by the script as their characters are by the toxic atmosphere. The film earned back less than half of its modest $1.2 million budget. The legacy of Z.P.G remains virtually non-existent today. Even as dystopian fiction has surged in popularity, this early entry sits forgotten in obscurity. Only dedicated sci-fi completists seek it out. Perhaps the greatest failure wasn't its immediate financial loss, but how it doomed the careers of several promising filmmakers attached to the project. Ken Russell, known for his flamboyant visual style and controversial subject matter, seemed an ideal choice to bring the story of French sculptor Henri Gaudibresca to the screen. The young artist's brief life, he died at 23 in World War I, and his complex relationship with Polish writer Sophie Brzeska offered rich dramatic potential. Yet, Savage Messiah became one of Russell's least successful films. The production began with high hopes. Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer provided a respectable budget, allowing Russell to create lavish recreations of pre-war Paris and London. Up-and-coming actor Scott Antony took the role of Gaudier, while Helen Mirren appeared in a supporting part that included a notorious nude scene that created minor controversy but failed to attract audiences. Russell's excessive style overwhelmed the intimate story. The film alternated between frantic artistic sequences and tedious exposition. Critics found the pace disjointed and the characterization superficial. Variety called it a savage mess in a particularly cutting review. Theater owners reported walkouts during screenings, and MGM quickly pulled the film from circulation. Against a production budget of approximately $1.5 million, Savage Messiah grossed a mere $320,000. Russell's reputation suffered, and the project marked a turning point in his relationship with major studios. The director would continue making films, but increasingly had to seek independent financing. The controversial legend of a woman who allegedly became Pope in the 9th century provided the foundation for this historical drama starring Liv Ullmann. The Swedish actress, fresh off her success in Ingmar Bergman films, took on the role of Johanna, a woman who disguises herself as a man and rises through church hierarchy. The legend claims her gender was only discovered when she gave birth during a papal procession. From the start, Pope Joan faced intense opposition. Religious groups protested the production, calling it blasphemous and historically unfounded. Director Michael Anderson pushed forward despite the controversy, filming primarily in Spain with a budget of around $3.2 million. Trevor Howard joined the cast as a senior church official, bringing additional prestige. The completed film proved disastrous on multiple levels. Critics panned Ullmann's wooden performance and the melodramatic script. The Washington Post called it a theological travesty and a cinematic embarrassment. Catholic groups organized boycotts, while historians criticized its historical inaccuracies. With such negative attention, distributors became nervous, with many theaters refusing to show it. Pope Joan earned less than $500,000 during its brief theatrical run, representing one of the worst returns on investment for any major film that year. Producer John Heyman reportedly lost his entire personal investment in the project. Ullman later expressed regret about her participation, saying she had misunderstood the historical context. In what should have been a winning combination, director Blake Edwards teamed with star James Coburn for this medical thriller based on a novel by Michael Crichton. Coburn played Dr. Peter Carey, who investigates a suspicious death at a Boston hospital. The film featured all the elements that typically drew audiences: a charismatic lead, a proven director, and a story filled with tension. MGM provided a budget of $2.8 million, allowing for extensive location shooting in Boston and elaborate hospital sets. Jennifer O'Neill joined the cast as Coburn's love interest, fresh off her success in Summer of '42. The screenplay adaptation came from experienced writers Harriet Frank Jr. and Irving Ravitch. Yet the production faced problems from the start. Edwards and the studio clashed over creative control, resulting in significant editing without the director's input. The final cut lacked coherence, with critics noting jarring transitions and underdeveloped characters. Reviews were uniformly negative, with Roger Ebert calling it a movie that starts out as a thriller and winds up as a mess. MGM's campaign failed to effectively communicate the film's genre or appeal. Posters emphasized Coburn's image but provided little indication of the plot. The film opened against strong competition, including The Godfather, and quickly disappeared from theaters. The Carey Treatment grossed only about $900,000, representing a substantial loss for MGM. Edwards disowned the final cut. Robert Altman entered 1972 riding high on the success of MASH and McCabe and Mrs. Miller. His artistic reputation allowed him to pursue Images, an experimental psychological horror film starring Susanna York as a children's book author experiencing a mental breakdown. The film represented Altman's most avant-garde work, incorporating dream sequences and unsettling imagery. Columbia Pictures agreed to distribute the film, but provided limited marketing support, uncertain how to promote such an unconventional project. The production cost approximately $1.6 million, modest by studio standards, but significant for such an art house-oriented project. Filming took place primarily in Ireland, giving the production an isolated quality. Despite winning York the Best Actress award at the 1972 Cannes Film Festival, Images failed to connect with mainstream audiences. The narrative complexity and ambiguous ending frustrated viewers expecting a more traditional thriller. Critics were divided, with some praising the film's artistic ambition, while others found it pretentious. Pauline Kael called it a case of a director being too artistic for his own good. Images earned only about $600,000 during its theatrical run, falling far short of recouping its costs. Columbia quickly withdrew it from circulation, and the film remained difficult to access for decades. Altman's reputation remained intact due to his previous successes, but the financial failure made studios more cautious about backing his future projects. John Huston brought his considerable filmmaking pedigree to this realistic boxing drama starring Stacy Keach and young Jeff Bridges. Based on Leonard Gardner's acclaimed novel, Fat City explored the lives of small-time boxers in Stockton, California, presenting an unglamorized view of the sport far removed from Rocky-style heroics. Huston approached the material with personal investment. Columbia Pictures greenlit the project with a modest $1.8 million budget, hoping Huston's name would attract audiences despite the downbeat subject matter. The production embraced authenticity, shooting on location in Stockton with many local residents as extras. Cinematographer Conrad Hall created a gritty, documentary-like visual style. Critics responded enthusiastically. The New York Times called it one of Huston's best films, praising the performances and unflinching realism. Fat City earned spots on numerous year-end best lists and received nominations from critics' associations. Industry insiders expected it would find its audience through strong word of mouth. Despite the critical acclaim, audiences showed little interest in the film's depressing portrayal of failed dreams and alcoholism. The marketing campaign struggled to position Fat City, with posters that made it look like a conventional boxing movie. The film grossed only about $750,000, representing a significant financial loss. The commercial failure illustrated the growing divide between critical favor and audience interest. Burt Lancaster teamed with director Robert Aldrich for this uncompromising Western about a cavalry unit pursuing a band of Apache warriors led by the titular Ulzana. Released at a time when the Western genre was evolving toward greater moral complexity, The film offered a brutal examination of frontier violence without romanticizing either side. Lancaster played an aging scout guiding inexperienced soldiers through hostile territory. Universal Pictures provided a budget of $3.5 million, allowing for extensive location shooting in Arizona. The production faced challenges with weather delays and script revisions, but Aldrich maintained his vision of a Western that would confront audiences with uncomfortable historical truths. The screenplay by Alan Sharp received praise for its nuanced portrayal of cultural conflict. Upon release, Ulzana's Raid earned strong reviews for its unflinching realism and Lancaster's performance. Critics appreciated how it subverted Western conventions and addressed complex moral questions. However, the film's extreme violence alienated mainstream viewers. Additionally, some interpreted the story as a Vietnam allegory, adding political controversy. The film grossed approximately $1.2 million, far below what was needed to break even. Universal quickly withdrew promotional support and shifted focus to more commercial projects. Lancaster, who had co-produced the film, absorbed a significant financial loss that affected his ability to back future passion projects. Over the decades, Ulzana's Raid has developed a small but dedicated following among Western enthusiasts. Peter O'Toole delivered one of his most remarkable performances in this darkly satirical comedy about a British aristocrat who believes he's Jesus Christ. Based on Peter Barnes's stage play, The Ruling Class combined black comedy, social satire, and psychological drama in a manner that defied easy categorization. Director Peter Medak embraced the material's theatrical roots while adding cinematic flourishes. United Artists backed the project with a $2.4 million budget, hoping O'Toole's star power would attract audiences despite the unconventional subject matter. The supporting cast included notable British actors Alistair Sim and Arthur Lowe, adding to the film's prestige. Production took place primarily at Shepperton Studios. The completed film divided critics. Some praised its ambition and O'Toole's fearless performance, which earned him an Academy Award nomination. Others found it overlong at 154 minutes and criticized its tonal shifts from comedy to darkness. Audiences proved even more confused by the film's satirical approach to mental illness, religion, and class politics. Many theaters reported walkouts during screenings. The Ruling Class grossed only about $800,000 worldwide. United Artists cut its losses quickly, pulling the film from distribution after a brief run. O'Toole's Oscar nomination generated some renewed interest, but not enough to salvage the film's commercial prospects. The actor later cited it as a personal favorite among his performances. What's notable about The Ruling Class is how it exemplifies the creative risks being taken in early 1970s cinema. Paul Newman starred in this Western comedy drama loosely based on the life of Roy Bean, a saloon owner who appointed himself judge in a lawless Texas town. Directed by John Huston from a screenplay by John Milius, the film attempted to blend historical elements with myth-making and satire. The supporting cast included Ava Gardner, Anthony Perkins, and a cameo by Stacy Keach. First Artists, Newman's production company, partnered with Warner Brothers to finance the film with a budget of $4.5 million. The production faced challenges filming in the harsh desert conditions of Arizona, with temperatures regularly exceeding 100 degrees. Newman took a reduced fee in exchange for a percentage of profits, a decision he would later regret. Critics responded with mixed reviews, praising Newman's charismatic performance but criticizing the film's uneven tone and excessive length. Some appreciated its quirky approach to Western mythology, while others found it self-indulgent. Variety called it a film of splendid parts that don't add up to a satisfying whole. Audiences seemed equally confused by a film that was neither a straightforward Western nor a consistent comedy. The film grossed only about $2.2 million, far below what was needed to break even. Warner Brothers executives blamed the unconventional marketing campaign, which failed to effectively communicate the film's appeal. Newman's star power wasn't enough to overcome audience confusion. The failure marked a turning point in Huston's career, following the earlier disappointment of Fat City the same year. This ambitious musical about the signing of the Declaration of Independence arrived in cinemas with a strong pedigree. Based on the Tony Award-winning Broadway hit, 1776 featured most of the original stage cast, including William Daniels as John Adams and Howard Da Silva as Benjamin Franklin. Producer Jack L. Warner saw the project as a patriotic capstone to his legendary career. Columbia Pictures provided a budget of $4 million, allowing for elaborate period costumes and detailed recreations of Independence Hall. The production faced unexpected interference when President Richard Nixon, after a White House screening, requested the removal of the song Cool Cool Considerate Men for its negative portrayal of conservatives. Warner, a Nixon supporter, complied without consulting director Peter H. Hunt. Critics offered mixed assessments. Some praised the film's historical detail and performances, while others found the transition from stage to screen awkward. Roger Ebert called it an insult to the real men who were Adams, Jefferson, Franklin, and the rest. The film's nearly 3-hour running time also tested audience patience. Opening in November 1972, 1776 faced competition from major holiday releases, including The Poseidon Adventure. Despite playing as the Christmas attraction at Radio City Music Hall, the film's box office performance disappointed. It grossed approximately $1.7 million in its first 6 weeks, but quickly faded, falling well short of its break-even point. The commercial failure contributed to a growing industry skepticism about big-budget musicals. Bruce Dern starred in this environmentally conscious science fiction film, directed by Douglas Trumbull, who had previously created the special effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey. Silent Running depicted a future Earth where all plant life has been destroyed, with the last specimens preserved in greenhouse domes aboard space freighters. When orders come to destroy these forests, Dern's character rebels, murdering his crewmates. Universal Pictures provided a budget of approximately $1.35 million as part of an experimental program, giving young filmmakers creative freedom with modest funding. Trumbull maximized these resources through innovative techniques, including filming aboard a decommissioned aircraft carrier and using amputee actors inside drone robot costumes. The distinctive visual style established Trumbull as a director to watch. Critics responded with generally positive reviews, praising the film's environmental message and striking imagery. Dern's intense performance as the nature-loving Freeman Lowell earned particular acclaim. However, some found the story simplistic and heavy-handed in its ecological themes. The film also suffered from an identity crisis in marketing. Was it an art film, a space adventure, or an environmental statement? Silent Running grossed just over $1 million, barely covering production costs before marketing expenses. Universal's limited promotional campaign contributed to the disappointing results. Trumbull later expressed regret about the financial arrangements, noting that he had deferred payment for his special effects company in exchange for profit participation, profits that never materialized. What's remarkable is how its reputation has grown over decades, with its environmental themes appearing increasingly relevant. Peter O'Toole and Sophia Loren headlined this adaptation of the beloved Broadway musical based on Cervantes' Don Quixote. The production seemed to have everything going for it: 2 international superstars, source material from a Broadway hit, and the directorial talents of Arthur Hiller, who was coming off the success of Love Story. United Artists invested heavily in the project, with a budget of $4.5 million. Production troubles began immediately. Neither O'Toole nor Loren could sing adequately for their roles, requiring extensive voice dubbing. The filmmakers chose to shoot primarily on location in Italy, but constructed massive, expensive sets rather than using authentic locations. Creative differences emerged between Hiller and screenwriter Dale Wasserman. The resulting film attempted to maintain the play's framing device while creating a more cinematic adaptation. Critics were uniformly harsh. The New York Times called it so histrionically grim that it seems to take place in a burial vault. Reviewers particularly criticized O'Toole's performance, noting that he appeared uncomfortable throughout. The decision to dub the singing voices created an additional disconnect that audiences found distracting. Even the cinematography received criticism for its murky quality. Man of La Mancha grossed only about $2.1 million in North America, representing a substantial loss. International returns somewhat improved the balance sheet, but not enough to reach profitability. United Artists executives had expected the film to perform similarly to Fiddler on the Roof, making the actual results especially disappointing. The failure damaged the careers of several involved. O'Toole, experiencing his second major failure of 1972, saw his bankability as a leading man diminish. Kurt Vonnegut's acclaimed novel presented enormous adaptation challenges with its non-linear narrative and blend of war drama, science fiction, and philosophical reflection. Director George Roy Hill took on the project with Universal Pictures providing a budget of approximately $3.2 million. The relatively unknown Michael Sachs was cast as Billy Pilgrim, the protagonist who becomes unstuck in time. The production embraced the novel's complex structure, filming scenes in Czechoslovakia to represent Dresden before and after its World War II destruction. Universal executives expressed concerns about the film's commercial prospects, but allowed Hill considerable creative freedom based on his previous success. The director later released a documentary about the making of the film, revealing his commitment to honoring Vonnegut's vision. Critically, Slaughterhouse-Five achieved remarkable success. The film won the jury prize at the 1972 Cannes Film Festival and received enthusiastic reviews. Roger Ebert awarded it 4 stars, praising Sachs as a very good, subtle actor. Vonnegut himself expressed approval, writing that Hill and Universal made a flawless translation of my novel. Industry observers expected the critical acclaim would translate to commercial success. Despite the positive reviews and festival recognition, audiences largely stayed away. The film grossed approximately $1.1 million, far below what was needed to recover its costs. Universal's marketing campaign struggled to communicate the film's unconventional narrative structure. The philosophical themes and non-linear storytelling that made the novel beloved also made the film a difficult commercial proposition. Over time, Slaughterhouse-Five has maintained the highest cultural profile among 1972's box office disasters. The box office disasters of 1972 reveal a fascinating moment in Hollywood history, a time when major studios were willing to take significant creative risks even as audience tastes were rapidly evolving. These financial failures represent not just miscalculations but ambitious attempts to push cinematic boundaries. Many have since been reassessed by critics and gained cult followings, suggesting that commercial performance isn't always the best measure of a film's ultimate value. What remains clear is that 1972 marked a turning point as the industry began moving toward the more commercially calculated blockbuster model that would define later decades. These 13 failures, in their own way, helped shape the future of Hollywood as much as the year's successes did.